Have you ever heard that the first betrayal in heaven wasn't Lucifer? That before Genesis, before the garden, another being a watcher, defied the will of God. Did you know that the very secrets driving today's world technology, beauty, warfare, sorcery were first given to mankind by a fallen angel? His name was Azael. Long before the serpent slithered into Eden, long before the morning star fell like lightning, there was a descent far more subtle, far more ancient. Not a war, but a whisper, a seduction of knowledge, a heavenly being who saw earth and chose to shape it in his own image. This is the story before the story. Azael's legacy, Lucifer's rise, and the ancient rebellion that now shapes the end of days. So the question is, are we just repeating history, or are we living in the final echoes of the first great fall? In the endless age before time, when only eternity breathed, God created countless hosts of celestial beings, angels, thrones, dominions, and powers. Among them were the Watcher's holy sentinels, entrusted to observe the physical realms taking shape beyond the veil. Their eyes beheld galaxies being sung into existence, the dance of stars obeying divine order. But among the Watchers, one rose with thoughts that trembled with forbidden desire. Azael. His heart, once pure, grew heavy with longing, not for God, but for dominion, for freedom, for knowledge that belonged only to the Most High. He descended, not with violence, not yet, but with questions, whispers of doubt that stirred the stillness of heaven's halls. Why must we watch and never touch? Why must the image of God be clay and not flame? Azael descended into the void beneath time, breaching the unseen boundary between eternity and the realm of men to be. There, in the silence before earth was born, he kindled fire unauthorized flame. He shaped weapons, taught sorcery, and breathed into creation the seeds of rebellion before it even had a name. God's throne remained unmoved, but heaven shuddered, and the host watched as light twisted into shadow in one of their own. Azael had not yet fallen, but he had changed. He began to teach the secrets of heaven to the lower realms. Mysteries meant for divine silence were spilled like blood, and in that breaking of sacred trust, the first betrayal was committed. The Creator's voice thundered across the unseen worlds. You were holy until iniquity was found in you. But Azael was not alone. Others listened, others followed. 200 of them, each stepping over the threshold of divine obedience. The Watchers came down to the world before Eden, mingling with what would become humanity-altering creation before it was even finished. And so the Creator halted his hand. The canvas of the cosmos, once pure, had been stained before Genesis had even begun. The earth was now formless and void, not because it hadn't been made, but because it had been ruined, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Thus, the story of Genesis begins not with creation, but with restoration, not with beginning, but with judgment delayed. The true first betrayal had already scarred the cosmos, and Lucifer, his fall still to come, would merely follow in the footsteps of the one who first dared defiance. Azael, the forgotten betrayer, not cast down by pride, but by the hunger for forbidden knowledge. And so the light was spoken into darkness, not as a first act, but as a rescue, a restoration the first war in heaven was not against Lucifer, but against silence, against the shattering of sacred trust, before the serpent, before the garden, before the fall of man. There was a greater fall, one that heaven itself tried to forget. The sin of Azael had not yet cooled when another presence stirred in the courts of heaven. Where Azael had transgressed through curiosity and the seduction of forbidden knowledge, Lucifer, the morning star, burned with a far more ancient flame, pride. Yet the two would become echoes of one another, twin pillars of the great fall that would ripple through eternity. Lucifer watched as Azael was bound in chains, cast into the deep, sealed in darkness beneath the mountains of the earth. The watchers, scattered and broken, their glory stripped, became a byword among angels, a lesson carved in silence. Do not descend. Do not give what God has not given. Yet in Lucifer's heart, this was not a warning. It was an opportunity. He saw not the shame of Azael's ruin, but the power it unveiled. Man could be influenced. Creation could be shaped. And if angels could fall, they could also rule. Azael's crime had opened a crack in the divine order, and through that crack, Lucifer began to whisper, not to men, but to angels. He did not need to descend as Azael had. He would rise to ascend the throne of God itself. If Azael's rebellion was against the boundaries of heaven, Lucifer's rebellion was against heaven itself. He would not merely touch creation, he would seize control of all it governed. But make no mistake, Lucifer's ideology was built on Azael's ashes. The idea that divinity could be taken, not just given, that the Most High's will could be bypassed by enlightenment, by self-realization. What Azael ignited in secret, Lucifer would proclaim in open defiance. I will ascend above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation. I will be like the Most High. And so heaven split once more. Lucifer's rebellion was not born in a vacuum. It was the evolution of Azael's original transgression. Azael challenged God's boundaries. Lucifer challenged God's sovereignty. The watchers fell from duty. Lucifer fell from glory. One brought forbidden wisdom. The other brought war. And though their sins were different, their fate would echo through the ages. Cast down, sealed in darkness, awaiting judgment. Yet the tragedy was not merely celestial, for both Azael and Lucifer had left behind seeds. Azael's sons, the giants, the Nephilim, walked the earth with hunger in their eyes. And Lucifer, he would wait in the shadows of Eden, wait beneath the tree. For though Azael fell before the garden bloomed, it would be Lucifer who stepped into it and whispered the final echo of Azael's legacy into the ear of the woman. You shall not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, you shall be as gods. Azael opened the door. Lucifer walked through it, and the world has never been the same. As time unraveled, the sins of Azael and Lucifer did not fade, they festered. Though one was buried beneath the earth and the other cast from heaven, both remained active, their legacies etched into the hearts of men, kingdoms, and thrones. Their rebellion, ancient and cosmic, became the blueprint for every fall that followed. And in the final chapter of this divine drama, the Revelation, it is their shadow that darkens the sky. From the mountain prisons where the watchers lie bound, Azael still waits, not dead, not silenced, but sealed. His influence seeps through the cracks of time in ancient rites, secret knowledge, and the resurgence of dark wisdom. He was the first to unveil forbidden things, and in the last days those secrets will return as Babylon rises again, clothed in scarlet and drunk with the blood of saints. And Lucifer, now Satan, does not simply wait. He works. For millennia, he has slithered through empires, faiths, and desires, grooming the world for his masterpiece, a throne upon earth. The Antichrist shall not merely be a man, but a culmination, a child of Azael's ideology and Lucifer's pride, a ruler infused with ancient knowledge and celestial defiance, who dares to seat himself in the temple as God. In the book of Revelation, war breaks again in heaven, but this time it is not just the angels who fight. The earth groans, its blood soaked by the fruits of rebellion sown long ago. The abyss opens not symbolically, but literally. And what emerges? Not just smoke and torment, but the spirits of the imprisoned watchers, unsealed for judgment. The locusts of Revelation, grotesque and otherworldly, are not merely creatures of plague. They are the offspring of forbidden unions, Azael's forgotten children, loosed upon the earth one last time. The dragon Lucifer stands upon the shore, not as a tempter, but as a tyrant, watching as his ancient strategy nears its climax. Yet even now, in the twilight of the world, the echoes of the first betrayals resound. What began with Azael's hidden descent and Lucifer's celestial pride has become human history, a story of kingdoms rising in rebellion, wisdom turned to sorcery, and freedom distorted into defiance. But the heavens do not remain silent. Michael, once the sentinel of Eden, now raises his sword not to protect a garden, but to cleanse the cosmos. The Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world, from before Azael fell, now returns, not as sacrifice, but as judge. And so the cycle comes to its end. Azael is cast into the lake of fire, not as a forgotten figure, but as the first to betray. Lucifer is hurled down, not just as an enemy, but as the heir of that betrayal. And creation, long held captive under their legacy, is made new. From Eden to Armageddon, from Watcher to Dragon, from fall to final flame, this was never the story of one rebellion. It was the story of two betrayals, one from below, one from above, uniting in the end to war against the throne of God, only to be crushed beneath the weight of His glory. The rebellion ends where it began, not in a garden, but at the feet of the Ancient of Days. The world calls it myth, legend, folklore, but beneath the veil of story lies truth, ancient, cosmic, and dangerously relevant. What began with Azael's forbidden wisdom and Lucifer's cosmic revolt did not stay in the past. It was planted in history, and now it is blooming in plain sight. Look closely, and you'll see it. The signs of a hidden architecture, a shadow government of the fallen. The symbols we carve into stone, fly on flags, and wear on skin were never just art or culture. They are echoes of the first rebellion. The all-seeing eye, once a symbol of divine omniscience, now presides over global empires. But its origin, it traces back to Azael, the Watcher, whose eyes surveyed the earth not with obedience, but desire. Lucifer's pride became ideology, humanism without holiness, enlightenment without God. It rose again in Eden's whisper, "You shall be as gods." And today it pulses in tech towers and government halls. AI, genetic editing, transhumanism tools of creation once reserved for the divine now clutched in human hands. But it's not humanity that seeks this power alone. It's the influence behind humanity, ancient and unseen, driving us to finish what Azael started. The occult revival, the return of Babylonian rites, the normalization of sorcery and sigils, these are not trends. They are resurgences, reawakenings. The secret sciences taught by the Watchers are rising again. From tarot to transmutation, from spiritism to Satanism, the forbidden has returned under new branding. Spirituality, awakening, self-deification. And what of Lucifer? His mark is not always a horned beast. It's in the inversion of good, the twisting of truth. It's in the rewriting of morality, where light is now darkness and righteousness is called hate. He no longer just whispers to Eve, he shouts through systems, screens, and laws. His goal remains unchanged, not just to deceive, but to replace God in the hearts of men. Even the nations play their part. The revived Roman Empire, the rise of global governance, the push toward a one-world religion and economy, all foretold in Revelation, all rooted in the rebellion that began before Genesis. The very world order being shaped before our eyes is a temple being built not for God, but for the man of sin, the Antichrist, the fusion of Azael's knowledge and Lucifer's pride in human form. And what of the church? Some remain awake, watching. Others slumber, lulled by comfort, deceived by diluted gospel and counterfeit light. The wheat and tares grow side by side, but the hour is near when the sickle will fall. Wars, plagues, earthquakes. The birth pangs are here, and prophecy is not distant anymore. It is local. It is viral. It is knocking on the doors of culture, education, economy, and faith. This is no longer ancient history. This is no longer just theology. This is the final chapter playing out in real time. Azael's rebellion was the root. Lucifer's fall was the trunk. Today's world is the fruit, and soon comes the fire. So lift your eyes, discern the signs, because the story of Eden is no longer behind us. It's all around us.